did the budgets for the Student Center, and I was also in charge of the operations, and we kept dealing with sort of these 3 buildings that were originally built, and they were all kind of cobbled together and having all sorts of infrastructure issues.
We knew that we needed more than what Hagstead had to offer, especially from a space standpoint. There was no student lounge space, the food service space was inadequate, the building had maintenance issues, on and on.
It was scary in the basement of Hagstead a lot of times, especially closing.
What the students originally were advocating for prior to the University Center being designed and built was additional programming space. We want space that allows us to bring in bands, comedians, those types of events and activities on campus, because we really didn't have that type of venue.
Went from a modest renovation of Hagstead to a major renovation of Hagstead to a major addition of.
And I said, we really should start developing a budget line to think about building a new building rather than just adding on and cobbling this building together.
The opportunity was there. I don't think the location, I don't think any of the particulars that I can remember were called out.
Again, we had a rare opportunity because Ames was sort of an abandoned building, really had been mothballed.
Trying to picture how they would even plan something like this is, I can't even really imagine it.
The logical thing just seemed to be, let's build a brand new, beautiful Student Center and put it in the middle of campus.
We're suddenly on a different site, and now it's going to be this big. Wait, no, it's going to be this big. And it's just that natural, almost evolution of a project.
The timing couldn't have been any better for myself and Phyllis Jaworski, who was the president of the Eco Club at the time. Well, we both got together and started to work on drafting new bylaws, new verbiage for the commercial buildings that were being built, so that should UWRF ever get an opportunity to build, a sustainable building, they would have some bylaws, some guidelines.
These were upper level students who were really at a height of their professional development before they left here, and so not only did they know a lot, but they had a lot of self-confidence and knew that what they knew was important.
One of the things that popped into my mind was going to Madison multiple times to the building commission to request permission to build. Of course, it was all student funding that was building it, but you still need to get that building commission approval.
We wanted to make sure that any future buildings at least had the ability to have sustainable features put into them, and lo and behold, it's coming true.
One of the other really critical students in this entire project was Ryan Perkle, who was the lead student for making sure that the additional $1 million that was spent for all the green elements of the building made its way through Student Senate.
It was the first green building ever on campus, and at that time we were trying to emphasize that kind of thing here in the city. And we, not long after that, we put up the first LEED certified city hall, but that kind of led the way.
The here and now is only the here and now, but what you do down the road, the legacy you leave, it's the definition of sustainable development.
Students went along both trips and did a fabulous job selling this. That's really what sold it, is the students went down and stood up there and said, we need this, we're willing to pay for it, give us permission.
And I think that's a wonderful testimony to the building and why it turned out as well as it did, is that so many people were involved in it.
The committee went to, I think, 5 different campuses. We got in a bus and took a road trip. And we walked through university centers and we talked to a lot of people, got a lot of ideas. And then after each visit, which this was just a couple-day trip that we were on, after each visit, we would sit in the bus and we'd all make notes and we'd hash things and what we liked and what we don't. And the architect was there, so he could then sift through all this, and as it was all very fresh.
There was great expectation as it went up, yes.
Well, it's funny because I inherited the project. When I came on board here at River Falls, it had been almost at the complete design phases. So for me, my first reflection of the building was looking at blueprints and a hole in the ground.
Well, I remember walking in there with hard hats and climbing ladders to get up to the mezzanine, in the black box area, and trying to envision what this was going to look like.
It's just cement pillars and cement floors, no walls or anything yet. That was really fun to see that progress.
And the wood beams got put in. When those glue lamb beams showed up, and that was added, for the roof structure. I mean, it just added an element. Before that, it still felt a bit like a bricks and mortar, and then when those wood beams showed up, that are still very prominent in that building, that was a pretty special time.
It was very exciting to think that we actually made this, what was initially just a conversation turned kind of a vision statement on paper, turned into an actual plan to sort of start to rise out of the earth.
One of my favorite days was the day of the opening ceremony.
Exciting, crazy, a lot to do in a very short time period. We were challenged with the dates on the opening day, on whether our goal was to open up in January, but we didn't know if we were going to make it. We didn't know if all the carpet was going to be down, all the floor tile was going to be down, all the kitchen equipment was going to be operationally. When you open mid-year, you're kind of opening midstream.
I played the piano on opening day. Yes, my fingers created the vibrations that spread through that building. It was absolutely fabulous.
The building managers, we all stood on the stairs, and Pete's Creek was full, absolutely full to the brim.
Just kind of looking up at this sea of people and just saying, wow.
But you could just feel and sense the energy on campus was just so very different than daily life in Hagestad.
There's a world of difference between Hagestad and the UC.
Students talked about an east and a west campus, and it's like, what? It's such a small campus. What do you mean an east and a west campus?
So the East End students ate primarily in Rodley, the West End students ate in the old student center, the old Hagestad. So they were kind of it truly was a split campus.
And the University Center just completely, not quite overnight, but probably within the course of that, opening in January through the end of that semester, and then when the new fall class came in the fall of 2007, completely changed that dynamic. I rarely ever hear a east-west comparison anymore.
Because it truly is at the heart of our campus and at the center of our campus. And with the number of students that visit that building, patronize that building on a daily basis along with faculty and staff, it really is the temperature check of what's happening.
Everybody has a place there, and there's things for everybody. It's a common area.
And I remember the first time that we walked into the University Center, and it was striking. It's obviously a beautiful, very open, iconic building, but what struck me even more than that was the energy within that building because of the students and the faculty and staff interacting with one another. It just felt like it was the heart and soul of the campus.
I go to the University Center just to see my friends because there's so many people that come there, and really it's every person, like no matter what your major is, no matter what organization you might be included in, whether it's like the auto club or the horticulture club, like they all meet at the University Center.
Sometimes say like the UC is like the living room of campus because so many people do come.
It reminds us of why we're here, which is as students, and it's just a place that makes you feel good just by being there.
My favorite place would be the lounge in the Involvement Center.
And there is a fireplace in the back.
With that beautiful glass piece that Bonnie Rubenstein did.
Just to the right of the fireplace is a little lounge nook, and there's 2 seats there and a small table.
It's such a kind of warm and intimate environment that I think that's a very special place.
Because that's a favorite place for a lot of people to meet, have a cup of coffee, and do your one-on-ones with your staff.
I love it just walking in.
And you see that huge expanse in front of you. You see the quarry tile, you see the big stairwell, wide stairwell.
The flags that hang there.
The wall of windows and the exposed beams and just the openness.
Well, you can look out over and see quite a ways in the distance the trees. Like in the fall, it's really pretty.
For me, much of the beauty of that building is what is typically not seen. So the rainwater harvest system.
The quietness of the building, even when it was so full, and just the layout, it was spectacular. I wish it would have been there when I was in school.
We have 1,500 to 1,700 new students coming in every fall. And every one of those students challenges that facility in ways that we didn't anticipate. And that building responds to and is adaptable to, and primarily because it's students serving students.
It brings the students together and in many ways represents the very best of who we are as a campus.
Happy 5th birthday, University Center.